Okay, so now I'm on problem 2 on page 478, and we're going to continue talking about graphing inequalities. There's one other thing that we have to do when we graph inequalities. So we also have to shade, which we just kind of talked about and we'll talk more about. But the line is going to depend on our inequality symbol. So the way that you can remember that, I circled some things in here. If the inequality symbol is less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, the graph is represented by a solid line. Okay, so that means that you just take a line and draw it all the way through all your points, because the line is a part of the solution set. If the symbol is just a less than or a greater than, the graph does not include the line and it's represented by a dashed line. So one way that I'll say a lot is if we have something like this. So if there's a line, we draw a line. So we connect the points. If there's not, I'll say that we draw a dot, which is just a dash, but I say dot because then it rhymes. If there's not, draw a dot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through A, B, C, D, E, and F and decide, would we draw a dotted line, or would we draw a solid line? So look at A, and remember, all we care about is our symbol. So here, there's not, so I'm going to draw a dotted line or a dashed line. We look at B, our symbol. They drew a line, so I draw a line. They drew a line, I'm going to draw a line. So solid line. So again, I'm just looking at my inequality symbol. There's not, draw a dot. There's not, draw a dot, dash, same thing. There is, draw a solid line. Okay, so let's go to the next page. And answer number 2, it says, consider the linear inequality y is greater than 4x minus 6. So how we're going to graph this and how we're going to graph all inequalities is we're going to think of it as an equation. Okay, so I'm going to think of y equals 4x minus 6, and that's going to give me my points on my line. And then I'm going to look at my shading, look at my dash line, solid line, all of that stuff. So A says, should the line be a solid line or a dash line? Well, let's look back at our original. If we do not have a line, then we do not draw a solid line. So this one's going to have a dash or a dot because it's just a greater than. So if we want to graph it, we're going to use y equals 4x minus 6 to get the points. So we can go to our calculator. We can type y equals 4x minus 6 and then go to second graph, and we can pick some points. So some good points will be, we can do -1, -10 is going to be down here. We can do 0, -6. We can do 1, -2, 2, 2, 3, 6, 4, 10. Okay, so I just used my calculator, used the table on my calculator and got some points. Okay, so that's y equals 4x minus 6, the points. Now, we need to use our inequality symbol. So, we already talked about solid line or dotted lines. Since this does not have a line, I'm not going to draw a straight line, a solid line through these points. I'm going to draw dashes. So that means that all the points that I just plotted are not included in the solution because the line is not solid. Now we need to talk about where the shading goes. Okay, so that also depends on the inequality sign. If you have a greater than sign, then your shading goes above. If you have a less than sign, it goes below. Okay, so since I have a greater than sign, I'm using above. So what I mean by above is I'm shading above this line. Now where's above the line? Here's a way to tell. You can pick any point that we plotted on our dashed line. So let's pick the point here. My y value is 2. If I wanted to get y values that are greater than 2, where do I go? Well, I'm going to go up, and those are any y value greater than 2. Pick another point. Y-intercept, -6. Where is it above -6? Up here. Another point, where is it above? I go up. So your shading is going to be anything above that line. Okay? So the book, the next question kind of walks you through another way to tell where the shading goes, but I'm not going to do that since I'm not there to kind of explain that more clearly. But this method will definitely help you figure out where the shading is. All right, so now we're going to flip to page 480. We're going to try a couple practice problems here. So I'm at 480 and I'm on problem A. Graph each linear inequality and shade. Okay, so I'm already solved for y. All right, it's not y equals, it's y greater than, but y is already isolated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph y equals x plus 3 to help me get my points. So go to my calculator, type in y equals x plus 3. Second graph, plot my points. So once I have my points plotted, I need to go back and look at my inequality symbol. It's a greater than. So I did not draw the line, so that means that I'm just going to dash or dot through here. Okay, not including these points. I'm just going to draw a dash line, give it some arrows. Now since it's a greater than sign, I'm going to shade above. So to figure out where above the graph is, I'm going to pick a y value. Where would I go to be above it? Up. And so that's where my shadings should go. Okay, so just kind of scribble. You don't have to get crazy with your shading. But that's how we would do that one. So I'm going to work part B, but I'm not going to talk. I want you guys to try to do as much on your own as you can, but if you get stuck, I'll be up here. Okay? It's already set solved for y, so that's nice. Don't plot the fractions. I don't want that to freak you out. Based on the sign, figure out what kind of line you're going to draw through, and then figure out where your shading is going to go. Okay, so I got my points from y equals negative 1/3 x plus 4. I just picked some from my table, pretty ones, not those yucky looking fractions. My inequality symbol was a less than or equal to, so since I drew a line in my sign, I drew a line in my graph. Since it was a less than, I shaded below, so I picked a point. Y values below that go down, and so my shading was all through there. Okay, so we're